Welcome back to another fantastic episode of. This is actually a special episode. This is the what if. This is what if part two. This is what if there's just massive. What if it's SHTF civil unrest? So if you missed episode one is what if there's SHTF grid down, and so this is part two. What if there's SHTF civil unrest? And I don't mean, well, okay, we're just going to go through it. So, welcome, here we go. Chance Paladin, let's go. So, I was actually, first of all, I was going to do this episode yesterday, but the horrible tragedy with Charlie Kirk happened. And so I gave it a day because yesterday was a really bad day. So here we are. And I'm gonna assume, we're gonna assume that we're first of all in an urban area, and then a rural area, and then a suburban area, and then a rural area, because there's three different options. Well, the fourth option is if you're completely nomadic. So we're in the outdoor office, and here we go. This is going to be a little hard for me to juggle. I have only a tiny bit of notes, so just bear with me. The first thing that's going to happen is when we're pretending we're leading up to the big one. So I'm going to use Portland as the example because, well, this happens in Portland so much that you can practically put a clock to it. So it starts, we're doing 3-day increments. So day one, we'll pretend, is you hear that there's going to be little protests around town, or maybe you don't even hear that there's going to be little protests around town. And then you're driving around because you got to go to the grocery store, and you notice people protesting, and they've got their signs, and they're like, no hate, no fear, we don't tolerate racism here. And you're like, oh, that's so sweet. They have their First Amendment rights. Oh, they're exercising their First Amendment. And then, you may or may not notice that a few of them are kind of standing back, and they're black clad. It's called black bloc. They're looking around. They're just paying attention to things. They're not really protesting. They might even act like they're security. They might even have a little red cross, acting like they're a medic, or they might have some kind of a security badge on. They might even have a rifle or a pistol, but usually not. So day one, we're gonna call day one the scouting day. If you're in a big city, this scouting day may be near a police precinct or a federal building. If it's not near any one of those places, then they're just doing whatever. But usually, it'll be near a point of interest for them. And they probably won't even be hassling anybody the first day. They won't really have noisemakers. They won't be trying to be agitated. They're just agitating. They're just trying to get a feel. They're trying to get a feel for everything on day one, especially, and so if you're in a suburban area, this might be in a park. Okay. And if you're in a rural area, this is going to be somewhere in town. It could be near the police station, but it's probably also going to be at a park. It's going to be nice. There's going to be family. There's going to be kids. There's going to be dogs. There's probably going to be food. There's going to be maybe even some little festivities, and they're going to say it's a family event. All are welcome. It's a family event. And you're also going to see every flag on the planet. You're going to see Palestinian flags. You're going to see Mexican flags. You're going to see trans flags. You're going to see every flag you can imagine except for the American flag, unless the American flag is upside down. You're not going to necessarily see them like burning flags yet. It's just going to look peaceful and inclusive, and you might see Black Lives Matter flags, and you might see, you know, you're going to see just all the smattering. They're just trying to be inclusive. You're going to see signs with just the most ignorant shit you've ever seen, and you're like, okay, whatever. And you don't stand up to them, you don't antagonize them, you tell everybody, and then you note them from afar, and you note their numbers, maybe loosely try to figure out where they park. And even if you have to talk to them, they're probably going to be very cordial. You just ask them some questions and nod and smile and go, oh, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. And they're just going to nod like a bunch of harbor seals, because they usually, a lot of them like won't know the secret codes. That's also kind of like a, initiation day. That's where like the pledges all kind of get started, and that's during the day. Now during that night, you might, if they don't just disband after being bored for a couple hours and it keeps going, you might make note of when police shifts are, to see if they try to stay out between police shifts to try to drag their OT out, which is a very common tactic there over time. And then you'll see if more black ninjas show up. Not black people, but rich-looking, scrawny white kids in black ninja costumes. Most of the people who were some kind of minority will have dissolved. Most of the Karens, the boomer Woodstock hippie dippies will have left, and you might see a couple of black ninjas skulking around, and then they might, harumph, and off they go. And then just kind of note where they go. Now, if you're in the city, their safe houses are going to be everywhere, so you have no idea where they're going to pop up. In the suburban areas, they might go back to whichever rich white neighborhood they came from, or they might have a safe house, also known as a crash house. In this, like I said, in the cities, they could have tons of them. They could be a rented out apartment. They could be a rented out commercial office. They have near infinite financial resources. Near infinite. That whole thing with USAID did not cut them off for very long. So they're back to having almost infinite money. They may or may not have set up shop somewhere yet. If they're in the city overnight, they may try to set up a little base. And it's going to be a friendly little base with supplies and pamphlets and sign-up sheets and arts and crafts. And, you may see some mild, trafficking, mild drug use, but nothing too crazy. The homeless people tend to stay away from them, and vice versa, unless the homeless people are feeling very territorial that night. And they may have problems with homeless, but that's about it. So, and if they're in the rural areas, they probably went to the next closest city where their next closest crash house is, and you'll notice that those are a lot easier to spot in the further out cities and towns, because they'll have Palestinian and BLM and rainbow flags identifying their house as a crash house, and deal with that how it is appropriate depending on where you live. So let's pretend day one is over. Day one is like scouting day. Day two, depending on how day one went, you're going to see more of everything on day one, except on day two, they're going to start pinning down whoever was filming and watching them on day one and starting to keep those people shooed away. You're going to see more black ninjas, except there might be bigger ones. There might be more aggressive ones. You're gonna see way more trans on day two. They're gonna be way more aggressive. You're gonna see way more couples. You're gonna see black ninjas making out with each other in between whatever they're doing. There's gonna be a little bit more fighting and a little bit more fucking, but not much. They're gonna still teeny tiny keep it a little bit on the down low. But they're going to start accumulating more people. They're going to be accumulating more drugs. They're going to be accumulating more equipment. And day two is staging day. They're still going to make it look like peaceful protests. They're still going to have the illusion of that, but they're going to keep people that clearly aren't with them further away. They're starting to set up camp on day two, literally. They're going to take an alleyway. They're going to take abandoned buildings, whatever they can. They're setting up camp now. The warlords are going to start checking them out, but the warlords aren't going to quite do anything yet, because they're not quite established yet for the warlords to come take advantage of them. Not that you should feel sorry for them, but the warlords are way worse, and we'll get to that in a minute. So this looks the same in suburban areas. They'll start setting up a camp in the park, and crime is going to start going up. Same thing in the rural areas. They're going to start setting up a camp in the park. And things are just going to seem a little off. There's going to be more punks at your one little grocery store. They're going to start sneering and being mean to everybody. They're not going to be very low key the second day. There's going to be a lot more little shits everywhere. They're going to have an attitude problem. They might even start just walking out in traffic and getting mad at everybody, because they're used to walking around in traffic in the cities all the time. They may even start picking fights with some of the older people because they have authority problems, even though they're rich white kids and have everything given to them. In the rural areas, you might not see as many trans, and you might not see as many minorities, because they know that they stick out way too much. Unless you're in a different ethnically diverse rural area, like, it is rare, but this does happen in black communities. It's just that usually, somewhere between night 2 and night 3, the rest of the black community already knows what's about to happen and just beats the handles them according to, the cultural norms of that area. Because I can speak from personal experience, not being racist, that the certain ethnicity does not like their Popeyes getting destroyed, and they do not like their community center being destroyed. And they don't like their Walgreens being destroyed. that's they will decide the where and the when of if they decide to run a different ethnicity out of their area. One of these days I'm going to get over all this and just start saying all the races, but I'm just not there yet. Use your imagination. But in a traditionally white, or, well, there's no traditionally white neighborhoods anymore. In the rural areas, it's all white and Mexican. So you're probably not going to see a whole bunch of Mexicans protesting in a rural area because they probably all have work in the morning and they probably all have to get up really early and drive to who knows where to go get their work done for the day because they're driving all over hell and gone working. And so it's probably just going to be white kids. If they have a crash house, the white kids will stay in a more in the more residentially dense parts of rural areas, if that makes sense. So if there's a subdivision, like I live in the middle of nowhere on a dead-end road, but there's still subdivisions going up. If there was going to be an Antifa crash house, it would be in one of those subdivisions, statistically speaking, because they're not going to crash at these meth houses that are on the other end. They do drugs, but they usually don't like to live in drug dens because they'll get taken advantage of because they're not very strong, and then they'll get trafficked, and they don't want to be trafficked. They want to traffic other people, so they don't hang out with people that can dominate them, like a bunch of meth heads would, a bunch of meth traffickers. So they'll stick with what they know, which is the rich, white, suburbanite communities, even if they're in the middle of nowhere in very, very rural areas. So most of them will go home, or they'll go to their crash house at night number 2. But a couple of them are going to stay back, and they're going to watch their little hot dog cart. Oh, what did they used to call that? They had a name. Antifa had a name for their food cart. Oh, that's going to bug me now. Antifa had a food cart or something, and man, like, they were making money hand over fist at that food cart. And then I don't know if somebody just kept stealing the money or what happened, but suffice it to say, it didn't go well. Shout out down in the comments if you can remember in 2020 what the name of Antifa's food cart was. They had Snack Block, which was kind of like Black Block, but Snack Block. But they also had like a legit food cart. Crap, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it's interesting. Their food isn't just food. Sometimes their food doubles as weapons. So you can't really take anything for granted when it comes to their food. The infamous milkshake that everybody remembers that several people testify was definitely not a milkshake. They sneak more dangerous things in with their food to make you think that they're doing something not dangerous to you, and then they sneak in something really dangerous. Anyway, somewhere between my point is, between night 2 and night 3 is the transition. They are setting up their base. So day 3 comes along, and if everything is secure and safe and sound and they're feeling good and they've got their target picked out, and by now they have the time and place and mode and method, and they know exactly, when the police shifts are changing, They know how many police there are. They know how many people are keeping an eye on them and all that. And they don't attack during the day. But by now they won't allow anybody to have cameras anywhere near them. And they will have ways of knowing if anyone is live streaming them, because they will use music to locate everybody. And they'll have been using music from the day before to locate everybody and figure out where everyone's hiding, so they can attack them on the third day before they start their run. So let me check my notes really quick here. People keep driving by and it's distracting me because it's really late at night. By now the news will be gaslighting everybody, saying that, you know, these are innocent protests. These are innocent protesters. By now, the news will have kind of predicated that an event is coming, but that it's a peaceful event, and they will like pre-justify the entire event. And anyone complaining about this increase in crime that's going on, the news will show photos that the viewers send in of different times of the day when that stuff is not going on. And we'll tell everyone how beautiful the city is. They'll just gaslight the shit out of everybody. They'll say it's all made up. This, you know, or they'll say, you know, it's really only restricted to a block or two, or they'll say it's not nearly as bad as the last time. But suspiciously, between that second night and the third day, you might see like the garbage companies' routes changing, and you might see by the third day the cops are now working more OT because they're trying to figure out when the attack is going to happen. Whether it's the cops or federal or ICE or sheriffs, you know, FPS, Homeland, it doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. By now the cops or Homeland, whatever, have set up a nerve center, and they're just watching. They're not intervening. They might have drones. They might have cameras. They might... But they're just watching because they don't know when the attack is going to happen. And defending the attack is really expensive, because cops are expensive when there's OT, and Antifa knows this. BLM knows this. And so they're trying to run the cops on OT out on the third day as long as possible. So on the first 2 days, they might start at noon and end at 2. And start at noon and then end at 4. Well, on the third day, they start at 10 to force all the cops in early, or to force all the last cops to be on OT so they're even more tired by the time their rotations comes up if they're doing 12 on, 12 off. And their goal the third day is to just physically exhaust the cops. Oh, the coyotes found something. That sucks. So their whole goal is to just run the cops out of time, exhaust resources. So by the time they start their run on the third night, it is going to be somewhere, and it doesn't matter. This is going to happen between any time between April and November. Don't ever think it's too wet or too cold or too hot. Okay? April to November. Any time before that, and they're usually just recruiting and finding weak points for the next cycle. So, okay. So the third night comes around. They usually start their run around 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. because their goal is going to be to run the cops out that are on shift before the cops on the next shift at 2 a.m. get on, because those cops are still trying to sleep from Antifa's prior run. Are you with me so far? It's a big loop. And so night number 3, they're going to go hit the police station. Now they might do a distractionary attack and feign one place and go attack another. They might have everyone guard the police station and then go torch all the cop cars if the cop cars are somewhere else. Because most police precincts don't have their cars underground. Or what they will do is they will block the entrance and exit so the cops can't go in to get their cars. And so what a lot of the cops will do is they'll take their cars home. Well, it makes Antifa really, really easy for them to find them and interdict them or follow them home. Them doxing cops is super, super easy. It's like drinking water to them. So what you're going to see on that third night is 911 calls are going to start getting really spotty. The garbage companies will have come picked up all their garbage, and you're probably not getting garbage the next day. The warlords are going to come in and really start checking things out to decide if there's anything that they like, to decide if that camp is worth taking over, to decide if there's any gals or guys that they want to traffic and exploit. And usually at this point, Antifa and BLM don't have enough resources to defend themselves against the warlords and deal with the cops at the same time. Or, if it's in the smaller areas, the cops / militias. The town militias. If you're in a subdivision, it is fairly, I say easy in air quotes. It's fairly easy in air quotes to defend your subdivision if it's got a decent fence around it, which most of them just do from whoever put it in to begin with. By that third day, you guys should be reinforcing those fences and get lookouts on the outermost houses. I think I was talking to Nick Easy about this, and he said the outermost house is almost always usually the demo house. And so if there's nobody in that house, you need to get somebody in that house with binoculars and a radio. Now, potentially drones. And you need to be watching for the mobs, because once they take out the police station on night number 3, there's no guarantee that they stop. They usually want to hit the police station because they want the guns at the police station, and they don't want that to be used as a staging area for the cops. Usually, hold on, there's a car driving by. Okay. Usually, the next closest police station is so far that the cops have a really hard time staging there because they have to drive all the way across the city. or if you're in a rural area, just forget it. And if you're in a suburban area, the next, cops or sheriff's department could easily be like 20 miles, 50 miles. In some cases, I've heard of them in some areas being up to like 200 miles away. Sheriff's departments can potentially be really, really far away. With so many cops defunded, some of these areas only have sheriff's departments, and there could be like 3 sheriffs. It's a mess. Anyway, this is why militias and mutual aid groups and everything are really important, because they could march and decide they, if you think they're not going to attack a rural area, they think that farmland shouldn't be able to vote. They hate the rural areas. They hate people being self-sufficient. In the Bolshevik Revolution, they took out food logistics. They understand warfare in a weird kind of soy kind of a way more than a lot of people do, and this makes them very dangerous. So, and in the suburban areas, usually they're trying to get to the white girls, and they'll do like, a convert or die kind of a thing. They're trying to take out, all the rich white parents that they hate, even though they're all have rich white parents. Or if they're BLM, they're trying to take out the whitey that's wronged them for so long. And you can hear them chant. I don't make this shit up. You can hear them chanting these things in there when they're trying to get everyone riled up to take the next subdivision. And usually they're very divided. There will be more moderate BLM that don't want to lead the group into a kill zone, and then there will be, the more extremist BLM. Maybe they're the one that was wronged because, it was their sibling that got XYZ'd. Maybe the other parent is, preaching more tolerance, the Malcolm X versus the MLK kind of a deal. There's a million different ethnic dynamics to all this. We haven't seen the Mexican groups do this very much, but if you go look up La Raza, they could absolutely do it too. If they think they're going to get kicked out and there's no work for them, they could absolutely decide to try to take some of their spots back. No, spots that they believe are theirs. But anyway, that's a different story. It's this whole racial divide among the lower class, the poors, the people who aren't happy with what they have, and they're not happy with what everybody else has, and it's going to get taken out on somebody, and they don't care, and you end up with the whole October 7th thing all over again, just pure barbarism. And so that third night is going to be an extremely, extremely, extremely long night. If you're in a subdivision, you've got to lock it down. You've got to get cars in the way. You've got to get barriers up. You've got to get checkpoints. You've got to get flashlights, floodlights. That whole keeping your house looking like it's dilapidated is bullshit. You've got to create fucking Fort Knox and around your entire subdivision, and you're not going to have everybody on the same page. You're going to have people that don't think it's necessary. You're going to have sympathizers, and you're going to have to address that, how it's appropriate in your subdivision to address that. But you cannot let the mobs protest through your subdivision, and not in the middle of the night. And I would even argue not during the day either, but that's really rare. I'm going to recommend you to a book series, Don Schiff's book series that I highly recommend. I think me and him might disagree a tiny bit on how to deal with those mobs that try to march through at night. Maybe it depends on how many people you're able to muster. It might be better to leave and go to a more fortified subdivision. You're not there to prep out, to bug out for a long time. You're only there to survive the night. That's it. Because usually, 9 times out of 10, law and order is restored the next day, and then purge, what we call purge night, is over. And again, if you're a different ethnicity and you're not feeling the vibe with the ethnicity that's in your town, and you're not Christian, or your Christianity is a little shaky, and you can't get to a church, you might have to get to another subdivision that's your ethnicity. But the thing is there's no guarantee that they're not going to blame you for whatever it is that's going on. You have to get right with God and hope that He gives you a path through the chaos. That might be another Christian family taking you in. That might mean another Christian family that's like, oh, hey, you were in the 17th, blah, 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 and I was in the 17th, blah, blah, blah. I have another rifle for you. I don't know the military stuff. Or just whatever. Like, the point is by night 3, your whole point is to survive. I guarantee you don't have enough ammo. Everybody that says just take out the first one has no idea what they're talking about. Taking out the first one does not do anything but embolden the rest to just swarm you. Flagging them with your rifle doesn't do anything except for embolden them, because then they think you're not going to shoot. Especially if they can figure out, if you're in a state with 10 round mags, they're just going to laugh at you if there's 200 of them. You have to understand, like, your goal as men with men's reproductive organs, that your job is to protect your women and your children. And you have to make that decision if your son is old enough to hold a rifle, or if he can keep a radio. You've got to figure this out, and you've got to figure it out soon. These are things that you should be thinking about way ahead of time. Your whole goal is to hold that subdivision throughout the night. They will still have to go somewhere sometime around 2 to 3 in the morning. And the reason why is because they will run out of food and drugs. And most of them will be grabbing the first woman or man or boy or whatever, and they'll be off to go somewhere and fuck for the night. Because that's honestly the whole point of this, is to just fucking do drugs, but whatever. They don't want to be the one left with nobody to fuck after they've done with all their fighting. And so when they really, really get the ball rolling on this, they will have vans full of food, water, and medical that follow them around. And that's something for you to think about. That might happen more on night 4, night 5, night 6. I will tell you, though, you don't want to stick around for night number 4, night number 5, night number 6. Because what happens next is, by the way, there won't be 911. at all. They might still try to hold you accountable the next day. You're going to have to try to dismantle all of your roadblocks in case everyone has to go back to work and, try to wash the blood and chaos off of everything. There's just going to be a lot of tough questions. I wouldn't stay around. Once you've survived night 3, night 4. I wouldn't stick around. It takes 3 days minimum to deploy the National Guard, which are the National Guard themselves. The guardsmen aren't pathetic. And so I hope that hasn't been taken out of context. Their numbers and their equipment are in dire need of updates. So there is a minuscule, if you're in an urban area, there is almost no chance the National Guard's coming to get you within 3 days. It takes 3 days for them just to mobilize. And if they've got stuff going on in the rural areas, the National Guard aren't going to deploy. They're just going to be defending their own areas with their own buddies. So if you survive a really heavy hit and some choices had to be made, that next day you need to be on the phone with everybody figuring out somewhere else to go, because the police and state patrol and everybody are going to start putting up roadblocks everywhere, because they are going to be trying to stem even more Antifa and BLM from getting in your area, which is good. That is what you want. But it's going to hurt you trying to get out. Hold on. Yeah, so by night 4, night 5, you just need to be getting out. Because once they've successfully taken over the first police station, they might try to take over the second. Usually each city has 2 to 3. The small ones only have 1. The city will have 2 or 3. They'll take those out, and then what they'll do is, instead of pushing into the rural areas, I mean the suburban, the residential areas, instead of trying to push into the residential areas, they're going to go back and they're going to start looting in concentric circles. They're doing that for their war chest, because they have to pay everybody, and they pay everybody with pussy and ass and stolen goods. And they always say the girls are for making babies, the boys are for fun. This whole situation is awful. It's why you just want to grab your kids, grab your wife, as soon as it's daybreak. Hopefully your tank is full of gas. Hopefully your bags are already packed. You get out of there before you have to answer any questions. And hopefully you've got a cabin somewhere, or a friend with a cabin, and hopefully you've cleared it with them, and hopefully you've been caching things. And just get the hell out of there. And everything could end up being okay in a couple days, or your entire subdivision could get torched in a few days. And you don't want to be in the situation where you don't have any guns, you don't have any armor, and you're at the mercy of other people. In 299 days, there's this thing. It's just this part of 299 days is just like burned into me, where this family stayed way too long, and there's a security detail guarding their subdivision, and they had to sign their house over to get like some AK, to get like an AK and a mags, and then said they were going to drop them off somewhere into a safe place, and they signed over everything, and then they dropped them off on the side of the road. The AK had no ammo, and then I think the wife and the two daughters got like sold off from some people that came and picked him up and had an agreement with him, and it was terrible. And like that story always stuck with me. That was like one of just the most just effed up things. And that's why I always say, like, guys, you've got to have a pair of balls. You have got to have the biggest fucking pair of balls. And I can't remember what YouTuber said it yesterday, but like, you as a father, as a man with like a wife and children, you are like the boss. There is no, like, obviously you have to negotiate with your wife like a little bit to not go off the deep end and like max out your credit cards. But like, it is your job to have a bug out vehicle, or like, you know, a get through town to go pick up the kid's vehicle at least. You know, you have to have moderately, you know, modern defensive tools. Like, and you have to have a plan. You have to have a comms plan and a no comms plan, like Vision always says. There's just no excuse. And you got to be relatively in shape. Not because you're going to be physically fighting people, although you may have to, but you have got to be ready to just fucking end anybody who is fucking with your family. There's no negotiation. There's no asking nice. There's no, you know, HOA Karen telling you that you can't have a blockade when it's 10 at night and there's 3 other subdivisions on fire. You know, HOA Karen is going to have to get the appropriate, you know, talking to based on the culture of, you know, your subdivision. She does not have the defense of your subdivision in mind. She wants to maintain normalcy. That's HOA Karen's job most of the time, is to maintain normalcy. So, with any luck, by night 6, 7, 8, National Guard will be deployed. It could take them 3 or 4 or 5 more days. And it's going to be a mess. You might come home to nothing left. Or you might come home to people that you can't get out of your house, and now they have squatters' rights. Because they found the deed to your house or some damn thing. And they say that, you know, you sold them that, you know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of shit. There could be 12 people in your house, or it could be burned down by meth heads. So this is the end of part 2. The what if shit hits the fan, civil unrest. So I think I covered everything. I have a feeling like I didn't. What I can say, there's some common rules of thumb. Learn not just how to poke holes, but how to, you know, fill holes. You know, learn how to heal, not just hurt. The likelihood of you using your medical is way higher than hurting anybody. As heinous as they are, if you're not used to violence, all of the Purge movies and the 2 Purge TV series are some of the best examples of this. And I have a whole Purge retrospective that I did. I was disgusted by those Purge movies when they came out. I thought that was just the most heinous thing on the planet. And then after about a year or two, going into like 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, I'm like, oh, okay. No, they were just a few years ahead of their time. That was supposed to be some slam on right wing something or the other, but just like Idiocracy, it ended up becoming reality because the left just projecting its psychoses. So they are not family movies. They are horrible. And honestly, the Purge movies are like light compared to what it's going to be like. there's very few movies that really get it right because of just the sheer barbarism and people getting revenge for just the dumbest shit. People are just psycho. Most people say most people are nice. That's not true. Most people are one or two meals away from just completely losing it. It does not take very much to put us as human beings back into our feral state. And a huge chunk of the population running around right now is already completely feral. Ukrainian gal got hacked up the other day. Charlie Kirk now is unfortunately gone. And all I can say is that the powers that be want a race war so damn bad. And they want an ideological war between conservatives and just these rabid leftists so bad. We are one bad day away. I know Tim Pool has canceled everything. Luke Radowski's looking for body armor. I don't know if Shapiro has said anything, but there was a list that got released. And I think it was Luke, Shapiro, Pool, and crap, I can't remember the rest of the names. Shapiro, basically every single one of them was on the list. And unfortunately, what happens when there's lists like these is people start putting out bounties, and there are psychos out there that will match those bounties and that will claim those bounties. And if that happens, if one more, what do they say? When it happens once, it's a coincidence. When it happens twice, it's a habit or something. I can't remember. Suffice it to say, like, if a second one of these happens, that will be it. It will be hell on earth. If you are not prepped right now, you better be hoping and praying to God that the leftists or the false flags or whatever it is don't go after anybody else. And that nobody tries to false flag the other side, because the left has nothing but false equivalences to this. They brought up the two lawmakers from Massachusetts or whatever. It was like another lefty, like Tim Kaine, not Tim Walz, the other Tim, like another one of his acolytes, I think. Don't quote me on that. They tried to use that as a false equivalency, and I want to say, lastly, the difference between it really, really popping off and it just disappearing in the news cycle is how the news itself handles it. And I missed this at first, but finally enough people told me to where it sunk into my thick skull. This Charlie Kirk thing was different from the Ukrainian gal not because the Ukrainian gal, was a pretty young white girl, that Charlie Kirk was, a renowned Christian white man with a family and kids, wife and stuff. It was the news buried the Ukrainian gal getting slaughtered brutally with the guy's bare hands and a knife, butchered her on a bus full of people that watched, knowing that they weren't in trouble at all, didn't even hold her hand as she bled out and died. The news tried to bury that and attack everybody that brought it up. With Charlie Kirk, they put that up close and personal. They allowed that to be on every Twitter page, every Instagram page, every TikTok page. It was probably on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know if it was on YouTube. But the one from 5 feet away and his jugular disappearing into just red everywhere, they let that play everywhere. And you have to understand the significance of that. When they're trying to rile everybody up into a massive civil unrest, they always say, it won't be televised, it won't be televised, it won't be... Oh, I get so sick of hearing that. They're going to do this on purpose. Whatever they decide to show, it's the PSYOP. Jacob Peterson from Prepper's Bunker Outdoors just talked about this. They can show you the truth, but still use the truth to manipulate you with controlled chaos. And they can, just like George Floyd sitting on his neck for 9 minutes. Even though he died from fentanyl, or Daniel Penny with the dude in the headlock, even though he was threatening to kill everybody on the subway. When they want to control the narrative, when they want to control everyone's feelings and control everyone's emotions, you'll be able to tell, because the news will show it non-stop. Even though a million horrible things happen every day, the powers that be, the cabal, the whatever, the think tanks, allow them to show this one footage, this one clip, and they'll show it over and over and over and over and over until it consumes everybody on both sides. They can control both sides with the same narrative. And people, I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news. You're going to get wiped out because you're not going to know what the narrative is. And you know what everybody's going to do based on the narrative. It doesn't have to be a reality. It just has to be how they're the direction they're going to control everybody. So the gal, sorry, I can't, her name is, it evades me, and it's tough to say. It's an ethnic Ukrainian gal name. That should have set everybody off, but they attacked everybody who tried to talk about it. They didn't even release the video. There was a gal, and no, I'm sorry, not a gal. There was a guy that got knifed by 3 youths, wink wink, 3 valedictorians, 3 rocket scientists outside the library in Portland. They didn't want that video to surface. Once that video surfaced, it was really bad, because it looks like 3 black kids knifing a white guy, which is what it is. Oh, well, context is important. Well, you're polluting the jury pool. Give me a fucking break. And then the white football player guy that got killed by the black kid. There's probably video of that they don't want to show anybody. And so they can control this narrative by which videos they allow and not allow. And you might ask, what's that got to do with anything? Because when the pot gets stirred enough, about every 4 years, again, 2012, 2016, 2020, 2025, roughly every 4 to 5 years, you can damn near put a freaking clock to this. They engineer enough stupid, useless idiots and ferals to just go do all this dumb shit until the right one happens that fits the think tank's magic bullshit narrative. I don't fucking care if you don't believe me. This is what happens every single time. Every fucking time. And now we're here. We're here. Congratulations. So you need to be paying attention, because this civil unrest is coming. And just like my last one with the grid down and, lone wolf Looney Tunes attacking power stations and stuff, and then the hackers attacking the power stations, the news will often predictively, program everybody on that, and it's the same thing with this. And the news, all the news outlets are just going gaga over No Kings 2 happening soon. Here in a few weeks, No Kings 2 is coming. And they're saying it's going to be bigger than No Kings 1. And conveniently, guess what? Guess who gets vaporized by, assassin psychopath that they still haven't caught? The most tolerant voice in the First Amendment. And, a tolerant Christian, like, this could not have been set up more perfectly to just cause massive, massive, massive civil unrest. So you guys need to pay attention. Okay? Leave any comments down below. I think I covered everything. I'm probably going to remember something the second I'm done with this. And the books that I'm recommending are called Suburban Defense, Rural Home Defense, and I think the other one's called Suburban Warfare. That's his third one. And then if you want to know the drone stuff, SHTF Tactical Drone Manual, all by Dawn Shift. Highly, 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 highly recommended. He is the only person I have found that has written as well as I could what defending your house and your subdivision and stuff looks like from SHTF. So, yep, I saw his and I'm like, oh, I don't need to write that after all. He did an absolutely amazing job. So check those out. Couldn't recommend them enough. They'll be down in the about. All right, talk to you later. Bye. Buy my book too. I wrote one down there. Thanks.
Get your